I'd like to bring Henry Wellbelove, the digital project leader from Cytiva, onto the call. Henry, welcome.
Thank you, Kerry. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So I first met Henry when I just joined the Quip team from the Einstein Analytics team about 9 months ago. And to be honest, at the beginning, when I first started in this group, I really hadn't fully realized the power of Quip together with the Salesforce platform. And what was so cool about meeting Henry and listening to his plans and what he was going to do, both with Lightning and with Quip, just really inspired me right at the beginning of my history at Quip. So my first question to Henry is, what have you been up to in the last 9 months?
Put simply, quite a lot. As you mentioned, we had the transition out of GE Healthcare to Cytiva, a standalone company. And we implemented Quip as part of a wider Salesforce implementation or re-implementation, really. We had to carve out Cytiva's content into a standalone instance from GE Healthcare's cloud. And as part of that, we rolled out Quip, the primary use case for which is account planning. I always mention at this point, Quip, of course, is not an account planning tool. Its flexibility, however, allows us to put it to good use for that use case.
That's great. And so when you sort of spun off your Salesforce instance and started thinking about account planning, how did you think about the process that you were going to implement? How did that change with the implementation of Quip and Lightning?
Yeah, so we had a legacy account planning tool, which is it was an out-and-out account planning tool. The downside of that is the templates were dictated by that third-party vendor. Quip, however, allowed us to totally redefine how we look at account planning. And now Cytiva's account plans are designed by Cytiva for Cytiva.
That's great. And who gets involved in that account planning process?
So it was my team, the digital project leader team. And also we involved a lot of our commercial stakeholders as well, because at the end of the day, it's them it's those teams that are doing the account planning. So it makes perfect sense for them to design the templates. We worked very closely, my team, with Quip, with solution engineers from Quip to ensure that the technical capabilities were there, and they were. And here we are. We went live with it on February 24th, and adoption is ticking over nicely.
That's great. And then you mentioned the commercial business unit. What was some of the goals and the values for that particular organization when it came to really beginning to understand their customers?
Yeah, absolutely. So we heard it slightly earlier on this broadcast. Silos. For us, breaking down silos is really, really important. And Quip allows us to move away from the account team mentality towards what we've termed the account community. So bringing in not just the commercial folks, but also service, customer service, basically that kind of holistic picture of the account community, ensuring that everyone who needs to know, everyone that needs to have that account specific information has access, at the tip of their fingers.
I think my marketing team actually is going to steal that phrase, account community. So watch this space for new messaging around that.
I should trademark it.
Yeah, exactly. How is Cytiva? How has the Cytiva team overall been? How have you been navigating through COVID-19 as an organization?
Yeah, obviously it's an interesting time for a biotechnology company. But if we look at it for a remote working point of view, it's the same as every company. We've had to pivot to new ways of working. Everything. We're missing those what we've termed water cooler conversations, where you just wander to someone's desk, ask a question. So to bring it back to Quip, a tool, the capabilities of Quip allow us to have those water cooler conversations, but more virtually than putting in half an hour in someone's calendars. Quip is a live feed essentially, bringing everyone together over the top of the content that you're working on. So yes, if we use the example of account planning, everyone can swarm to that account plan and converse, as they would if you were standing in front of one another. It's very informal, whereas the alternative is putting time in someone's calendar, which perhaps feels overly formal for a lot of uses.
Yeah, I mean, it's a very dynamic process, right? So it's almost like you need to have a really big meeting room where everybody can come in, rather than having these sort of individual one-off meetings with everyone who's going to help with the account. And how have you personally been doing? Like, how is the world of Henry now?
Smaller, I would say. Smaller and busier. As I mentioned, obviously we're a biotechnology company, and it's a very interesting time to work for a biotechnology company, but also an interesting time to work in digital at a biotechnology company when the main focus is how do we engage our salespeople? How do we still continue to serve our customers, albeit remotely? So interesting, I would say.
Certainly for us all and for the audience, I'm sure. So let's dig a little bit into the world of account managers. So how is their day-to-day world changed, both with COVID-19 but also with using Quip and the Salesforce platform?
Sure. Well, with COVID-19, of course, everyone is at home, whereas normally the clues in the job title, right? Field-based, they're in the field, they're in front of customers. So that kind of customer-facing time has been drastically reduced. But what I would say is with tools like Quip, those conversations that they would have with their sales, the account managers with their sales teams, it's made so much easier, right? Everyone is in one place. Everyone is notified as soon as any changes or updates are brought in. So it kind of negates some of the downsides of everyone being at home, away from the team, as it were. I mean, as an organization, we spend a lot of time traveling, as I'm sure a lot of organizations do. But Quip allows us it gives us that central repository for information to ensure that everyone is on the same page and with 360 view of that content.
Yeah, and with that 360 view, how has the cadence of account planning changed? We often hear about companies, they basically, do these grandiose account plans at the beginning of the year, and then they sort of get put in the proverbial drawer and never really looked at again. How is the sort of spirit of account planning changed for Cytiva?
Yeah, it's almost like you've been leafing through my notebook, because that's exactly what we experienced with our legacy tool. Is account planning was seen very much as a box checking exercise. Have you completed your account plan for the year? Yes, no. Whereas now it's totally been turned on its head, and everyone is realizing that you can update your account plan from your phone now. If you find out that interesting nugget of information about the customer, or you see some competitor instrumentation at a customer, you can update the account community from your phone. I mean, yes, at the moment there is no real need to use your phone versus your laptop because we're all at home, but the functionality is there when we are back to normal, whatever normal may be for everyone individually. But the functionality is there. Account plans now are living documents, not just something to be reviewed quarterly with management, for example.
Yeah, that's the way to do it, because it's like, because the team will change, right, over time too. You might have a customer service person that has not been on the account before, and so now you want to get them up to speed really quickly, especially in times of growth as well, which, biotech, this is often happening. You need to onboard people really quickly, and so these documents have really become these living workspaces.
Exactly, and we can use the conversation pane for those of you who have used Quip. We have the conversation pane, which is, yes, a log of conversation, but also a log of edits.
Yes.
So I always say to people, if you want to get up to speed with an account plan really quickly, spend 5 minutes scrolling up the conversation pane, and you've got not only the conversations that have happened between our associates, but also edits that have been made to that account plan.
Yeah, and who made the edit as well, and when. Yeah, I do exactly the same with opportunity notes. Exactly the same thing. I'm like, who's been making changes here? So if you think back on the implementation and what you've done, there might be a lot of people in the audience who are like, yeah, this sounds like a really great idea. What advice would you give them to really drive towards a successful implementation? And don't be shy. Include the parts that you wish you'd known then, what you know now, sort of what bumps in the road that you had, in addition to the obvious one. But how do you manage a successful implementation?
Yeah, I think this comes to another little nugget that marketing are free to take is something I've been broadcasting internally is Quip's use cases are limited purely and only by the user's imagination. Because people always say, when we implemented this, what is Quip? And you could spend an hour, right? You could find a use case however you like. Our use case was account planning, and our plan was to roll out account planning, implement account planning, and then allow other use cases to evolve organically. What the recent circumstances and current circumstances have accelerated for us is those other use cases. So people are coming and saying, hey, this is great for meeting notes. This is great for agendas. This is great for my personal to-do list. Yeah. But so it's accelerated, I would say, our strategy. Certainly we had, it was very much account planning. Let's not confuse by saying, oh, hey, it can also do this. But I would say it is purely limited by your imagination.
Yeah, we've seen, more and more use, like you say, outside of just sales and service and marketing to really, we have 50,000 employees at Salesforce, and every single one of them is in it constantly. Daily average users is up there with the number of employees, which is great because everyone's on the same page. What does the future look like for you, Henry? Like what's obviously this has been an incredible role and an incredible implementation. We're like really proud of this implementation on the Quip team as well. So what's next for you?
It's the life of project management. It's on to the next project. It's quite a hard project to hand over, however, to kind of more of a maintenance phase.
Yeah.
Because I've loved working on it. People have come to associate Quip with me internally, which I like. It's a good thing. But certainly for me personally, it's on to the next project. And you'll be glad to hear we are managing that project wholly in Quip.
I do like that. Thank you. Anything else to add, Henry? Sort of anything else to add about account planning or project management?
I would say get a demo, give it a go. Then it's one of those tools you have to get into the weeds of it to understand it. Okay, it's like, I always say it's a tool, you already know how to use it. It borrows a lot from social media messaging, Microsoft Office, etc. So give it a go, have a go, and see how you get on.
Well, a huge thank you, Henry, for sharing your story. As I said, it's been 9 months since you and I have been face-to-face, if this is face-to-face, and I just want to thank you for your support of the team and also for, as I said, for sharing your story today.
My pleasure. Thank you for having me.